iPhone SE versus iPhone first generation. That video's coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up guys, Nick here helping you to master your technology, and welcome to the Apple iPhone SE versus the Apple iPhone first generation. Now in this video we're going to take a look at both of these to see how far Apple has come in terms of speed and things like that. Now the iPhone SE is definitely not the newest phone. It was released in 2016 and I think a lot of us are looking forward to an SE2, but it's definitely a lot better looking than the iPhone first gen. But let's go ahead and begin this with a boot up test in 3, 2, 1. And you're going to see it is going to show white there for the iPhone SE, but it looks like the iPhone 1 has the jump on the SE. Now this is running iOS 11 public beta, so I wouldn't be surprised if the first generation does boot up quicker. This is a beta and this also has a lot more features than the older iPhone. This is a very simple OS, so it should boot up pretty quickly here, but we're going to see here. Now my iPhone 1 does have, you know, a little bit broken screen up at the top, but it's okay, it'll still work. But the iPhone SE, even on iOS 11 public beta, beats the first generation iPhone. That's kind of surprising because I actually seen this boot up quite quick earlier. So you can see right there, iPhone 1 is ready to go. So isn't this nostalgic looking at the older iPhone versus a relatively newer device? And you can see it's still buggy here on iOS 11. You can see how the clock is, like the apps are above the clock there. I don't know what's going on with that. Sometimes you just gotta lock the screen, come back into the device, and it should knock down. So you can see it is back in place. So that's why, you know, I don't recommend you download a beta. Still a little bit buggy here for the iPhone SE. So what has really changed over the years between the iPhone SE and the first gen? So you can see they both still retain a flat camera, 16 megapixel 4K video recording camera versus a 2 megapixel shooter, shoots in at VGA quality. Pretty horrid there on the iPhone first generation. The SE is a beast in the camera department. Now you could just see how much different of a design these are. So the curvier look is more in line with the iPhone 7, I would say, on the first gen iPhone versus the SE, which went with a more square design. Now some people think that the SE 5S is the best design of all time on the iPhone. I disagree. I don't really like square designs as much as curvy designs. I do like the 6 series design a little bit better. That's my personal opinion as of the recording of this video. That is subject to change. Now what has stayed the same is the aluminum shell. So the iPhone SE retains its aluminum shell. The antenna bands were located down here in the iPhone, the original, and on this guy they're located in here inside this glass, as well as in this little line right here. So I think that, you know, iPhone has been a clean design for a very long time and it hasn't changed much there. So let's go ahead and look at iOS. So iOS 11 here, you have the slide and unlock here on iOS 3 over here, iPhone OS 3 here for the first gen. Press home to open here. Now a lot of people complain that they don't like the, you know, slide to unlock or the new versions of unlock. They like the old slide to unlock feature on the first gen iPhone, but I would argue that this is actually faster than the slide to unlock. So I think that the newer unlock feature is a bit better. So let's go ahead and look at the speed differences. So this is running an extremely old processor here on the iPhone, the original, and this is running the Apple A9 CPU. This has less than 500 megs of RAM. This has 2 gigabytes of RAM. So definitely a huge update in the performance department. And you know, back in these days, you know, if you bought a phone, you would have to upgrade because they were just advancing in speed so much year over year. These days, if you buy a phone, they'll last much longer because they're a lot faster than they used to be. Like you can buy an iPhone SE and expect that thing to last way longer than like back in these days when you bought the iPhone, the original, and then in 2010, the iPhone 4 comes out and just, you know, is much quicker, as well as, you know, like the iPhone 4S with its dual core. So when iPhones started getting dual core, they were much quicker. Let's go into messages to begin this, and you can see messages are open there on the iPhone SE a lot quicker, and you've seen right there that the iPhone 1 was pretty slow. So let's go into the calendar. And you can see not bad there for the iPhone 1, surprising with OS 3. So this just goes to show how well the iOS operating system has done over the years. I mean, for longevity, there's no better operating system out there, I think, in terms of if you're going to keep a phone a very long time, iOS is the way to go. So you can see now the iPhone 1 opens here. Once again, this is iOS 11 public beta versus iOS 3 or iPhone OS 3, if you will. So YouTube does not even work on my first gen iPhone. You're gonna see right here, it will not connect. I am connected to the internet, but it seems to not be able to connect to the YouTube app. So issues like that were apparent in some of the first generation iPhones. Going into stocks, you can see stocks is surprisingly not that much different even here in 2017 versus the first year. I mean, how much can you change stocks? I mean, there's not really much to change, but they changed the theming and the look a little bit in that department. Now, in terms of Apple Maps, about the same here, you know, in terms of what it can do. I mean, you do have a lot more features here in the newer one, way more features, but, you know, I still think even in 2017, I would prefer Google Maps. I don't know what you would prefer. Let me know which maps you would prefer. But overall, this is just a huge feature update 10 years later in Apple Maps, but it hasn't advanced as far as Google Maps, in my personal opinion. Let's go into weather. And you can see weather is hugely updated here in the newer version of iOS. It's a lot easier to read. It shows much more information, whereas this just looked like a little card that you would see on yahoo.com here on the original iPhone. But still, I think the weather app on iPhone has remained one of the best on any phone. Let's check out voice memos here for both devices, and you see not bad on the speed there for the iPhone first generation. Coming home here, a lot different though. This is a kind of that skeuomorphic design, trying to make the phone look as real as possible. This is more of a modern flat UI, which was changed in iOS 7. Coming home here, let's go into the notes department, and you can see just how different the note taking is. This actually looked like a little legal notepad here, whereas here you got the more modern white theming going on. I actually kind of preferred that. That was kind of cool back in the day. I felt like I was writing on paper on my phone. Going into clock, you can see clock is again much updated. We do have the new bedtime feature here in the newer iPhone, but other than that, the core functionality of iPhone has been pretty much a staple for Apple, and it's pretty much stayed the same. They haven't, you know, Android is one of the operating systems that has really seen massive changes over the year. I think iPhone has just added features to their core experience, and I mean that, you know, formula has worked well, I think, for Apple, because for iPhone users who have been using iPhone forever, they haven't really had to learn a whole lot to keep using their phones pretty efficiently in their day-to-day lives. Let's go into settings, and you can see right there, settings much quicker, but a lot different here again in iOS 11. But still, you can tell that it came from this guy right here. Again, I cannot open up iTunes or App Store. There's something going on with the Wi-Fi connection. I do have Wi-Fi here on this first gen iPhone, but it's just not connecting to these Apple services. I don't know if they've shut them down or something for this first gen, but I could definitely browse the web here. If I go to Safari, and Safari here, you can see the older looking iOS theme, or iPhone OS theme, if you will. Going into apple.com, you can see apple.com is going to fly open on the SE, whereas we're going to have to accept it here on the iPhone 1, and then it might not even show the graphical UI here. It may or may not. We're going to have to see here. We can see the loading time just takes forever. So, you know, it was much better to use the first generation iPhone if you had a fast Wi-Fi connection. You don't even see the elements here of the picture. So the iPhone 1 is practically unusable these days. I would say it's still better than a flip phone even these days. So if you really wanted to get one of these for 20 bucks, I would only get one as a collectible. Definitely not as something for a day-to-day user. And the iPod has been replaced with Apple Music, and that's a whole nother beast in of itself, and that's a pretty smart strategy, I would say, by Apple. I mean, they created the iTunes Store, which was already bringing in a whole lot of money for the company, and then they create the Apple Music to replace the iPod, which was basically where you were just transferring iTunes music to the music. Now you have an option to get a streaming service on your iPhone, plus you can buy an iTunes. So they got two different sources of revenue here now, straight from the iPhone. So that's a smart move by Apple, but you just seen how slow that was to scroll over right there versus the iPhone SE iOS 11 beta. So when we talk about buggy here, even buggy on the iPhone SE is faster than older phones like the iPhone 1 on its stock software. Anyway, that's pretty much it here. You do have a fingerprint scanner now on the newer SE. That's a nice update, really big update. And overall, how much has it really changed? Well, it's changed a whole lot. And the iPhone SE is kind of like the refined, amazing small phone that Apple, always probably wanted to create. But it had to start somewhere, and it started with this old rocket looking spaceship little thingy, my bobber over here, this little tank of a phone here. And the iPhone SE is still a recommended phone from me here in 2017. Also, we're looking forward to an SE2. Hopefully Apple sees these videos and goes ahead and creates that one. We will cover that on the channel as well. So what do you think about the iPhone 1? How well do you think it's aged over the iPhone SE? Do you think it's not that much different? Do you think if they just had a faster processor, it'd be about the same experience? Let us know down below in the comment section of this video. Let's chat about this one. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Hit the thumbs up if you liked it. Subs if you loved it. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.